Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What is up and what is going on? It's your boy Mikey Dan, the historian, coming to you with another stream for the democracy briefing. Before I say anything to the people in the chat and all my supporters, ASC,
What's
my
good, bro?
co-host, my OG, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Just ready to get on with this cook and everything, man. There's some interesting stuff that's been going on in politics, but it's the world of politics in the age of Trump.
Absolutely, absolutely. We got a lot of things to get into today. We're gonna have a discussion about data centers. We're gonna have a discussion about bodily autonomy, but this time from the perspective of men. Do men still have bodily autonomy in this day and age? Or does the at least the doctrine and the principle of bodily autonomy, when it's being argued, should it apply to men as well in a very specific case, which I'm going to present? We're also going to just touch on the Iran war, and we're going to touch on a new cabinet member that will be leaving the Trump administration. It's another woman. You could probably guess who it is. It is the broad, the clown herself, Tulsi the Freak Gabbard. So we're gonna get into all that amazing and great stuff, as well as another week in the just blatant and outright corruption of the DOJ. But before we get into that, let me just give a big shout out to the people in the chat. Thank you so much. I appreciate everybody that comes through. Start with my brother BVO Boxing. Thank you for coming through, BVO. This is my mentor. This is my OG right here. This is my big brother. I love him to death. Big Illy, Big Illy. I mean, everybody needs an Illy in their life. That's somebody right there that's gonna ride for you whatever time or day. So shout out to Illy for coming through. My boy, Chop Cheese Tommy from the Bronx. Chop Cheese Tommy. aka TD Sports Talk. Thank you for coming through, brother. D Frilio, aka Detective Free, aka Old Man Frilio. Thank you for so much for coming through, my brother, smashing that like button. And then we got my love, my pretend baby mama on the internet, Angie Baby. Thank you so much for coming through, Angie Baby. I love you to death. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody that's here. So just quickly before we get off into those other topics which I laid out, I just want to do a quick run through on the what's going on, the situation in Iran. At this moment, at least in the past week, there was big hype and big talks about how there's going to be an announcement of a deal which would open the Strait of Hormuz, which would allow oil prices to potentially go back to normal, at least in the long term. That has not happened. Instead, what we've heard is that there might be a 60-day extension of the current ceasefire, which I mean, I don't really know what that would do. I mean, the ceasefire that we're in is already, at least according to Donald Trump in Washington, it's already indefinite, meaning there's no deadline as to when it ends. So, like, I mean, it just sounds like more of nothing. It was more of the same. Donald Trump on one side saying, we've got them to agree to give up their nuclear weapons. We got them to agree to disarm and give up their oil. It doesn't come to pass because the Iranians say, I mean, that guy is drunk or he's high or he's just not a real living human being. And somebody's has their hand up their ass talking for him, which will more than likely be the guy dragging him on this leash right here, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister. And then while all that was going on, like we had a couple dust ups where the US decided to strike Iran twice in the past week since last Saturday. We decided to go into Iran and bomb some of their missile launchers and bomb some of their mine laying boats. And then Iran decided to fire off some missiles at our air base that we have in Kuwait. So we had a couple of dust ups there that could have potentially triggered something larger or a restarting of the war once again. Moving over to the Iraq front, the a commander in Khatib Hezbollah, I don't know if you heard about this, AC, was arrested by the Turkish government and was then handed over to U.S. authorities. He's being brought to Washington, D.C. to stand trial. So apparently, and I got to give a lot of credit to the men and women in the FBI, also in Interpol, and in all our federal enforcement agencies. I'm not giving credit to Dummy Patel. Drunky Patel. I don't know. Oh yeah, here he is. Yeah, Drunky Patel. Nah, this guy. No credits for you, boy. No credits for you. Keep sipping on that bottle. But this guy was he was planning AC. They were going to well they did achieve one attack. They were planning to firebomb. I believe it was a bank associated with a Jewish synagogue. Then there were going to be simultaneous attacks on other Jewish synagogues in California, New York, and I believe Arizona. And essentially, this individual, he paid in cryptocurrency somebody he thought was a cartel leader to go out and commit these acts. It turned out the cartel leader is an FBI informant or an undercover agent. So he got sprung on the Lebanon front, where that's where the main and most savage fighting is happening right now. Israel is doing what Israel does. They're tearing down people's homes. They're pushing further and further north into Lebanon, across the Litani River. Hezbollah is fighting back. They're ambushing Israel along these routes. Right now, Hezbollah is adapting Ukraine's strategy of using fiber optic drones, which are cheap. They cost altogether about $4,000 to put together. Um, at the same time, they're still being pushed back, but they are a guerrilla force. They're not necessarily meant to like stall off a full mechanized army's invasion force. You know what I'm saying? Like they're meant to just pick at them, bomb some civilian hubs in northern Israel to force a political reaction. But that's what's going on up there on the northern front. There's been about, I think, 20 Israeli soldiers have been killed since February. And there's been reports 1,500 Hezbollah soldiers have been killed. And then in Yemen, on the Houthi front, the Red Sea front, the Houthis are just biding their time. They right now are rearming, and a lot of intelligence and military experts are saying that if anything pops off, that they will be fully engaged. Right now, they are going through their allies in Somalia, Al Shabaab, which is an Al Qaeda offshoot, and they are getting weapons. Yeah, they're managing to still slip the U.S. blockade of Iran through their Somalian smuggling routes, and they're managing to still supply the Houthis. So that's basically what's happening at this point. No progress has really happened on the diplomatic front. So oil prices are going to remain the same. Gas prices are going to remain about the same. Um, yeah. Oh, and then the China visit, which people were saying that Trump's visit to China was supposed to like yield some type of results. It yielded nothing. Yielded nothing at all. Like they were supposed to talk about China maybe was going to step forward. I was going to go to Iran and say, listen, give us your enriched uranium. We'll take it off your hands. You know what I'm saying? And that didn't happen. It was just a whole bunch of smiling and laughing and Donald Trump getting wined and dined. And yeah, so we're pretty much still in the same place as we were the last time we talked about the Iran war. Any thoughts on the AC? Any thoughts on the situation and the just retarded, or excuse me, not retarded. I apologize for using that word, but just the invalid level of leadership that we have currently?
I mean, that goes without saying. Outside of that, the thing that kind of concerns me is we might be starting to see globally a rise in, if people want to call them hate crimes against Jewish people because of political affiliations that have to do with their basic belief systems. So that's just a bit concerning and things like that. But outside of that, um, I just have issues with this country going into other countries to go snatch people up when we're committing crimes ourselves as with this government. Because what if the world decides, you know what, going over and doing what you're doing with the last Latin American leader. Then you bombed. Then you attacked Venezuela. You are out of control, America. And for me, if they decide to do something like that, then I, as an American, I couldn't sit here and be like, oh, this is outrageous, and how dare another country or the world does X, Y, and Z. Well, look at who's in charge. Look at what we're doing. Look at, you know, at the end of the day, we bombed a school, killed all of those little kids, all of those little girls. There is no accountability for that. So,
But
outside
which,
of
by
that,
the way, on top of that, and this wasn't widely reported, but I just read an article about it. AC, there was like a volleyball game with like where 21 teenage boys and girls were killed when like a
yeah,
cluster munition that we launched like landed on top of them, and this cluster munition is like filled with these acidic pellets, and it killed every one of those little boys and girls on that court.
yeah, and it's just that's the type of stuff that's like, okay, now that all these media outlets are capitulating to, whereas they don't want to tell us these egregious truths that are happening, you know what I'm saying, perpetrated by both this government and Israel in the efforts of this Israeli war, and just this purification that they think, everyone must bow to them. If we held the same energy for Russia attacking Ukraine, then what's going on with us? So that's where I landed. And um, the terrorist guy, or and stuff like that. It's just in this era, I'm just like, I can't rock with this government's, yeah, we just arrested this guy, and yeah, we just did that, and we just did that, because half the time it turns out, number one, it's not true. Number two, it wasn't done the way you said it was done. And number three, none of the information is what you're telling me. And that's the most important part. You're lying about everything. You're gaslighting about anything you possibly can gaslight about. So, um, do I believe you actually got the head? Nah. Do I believe this and that? I think you got somebody that may be important, and they told you, yeah, I'm the head of this. Or you might be rocking off of false information because you're so desperate. And that's my issue.
No, absolutely. And just before we move on, like I agree with you on the point that this space that we're in, like the idea of America being the leader of the free world, that's kind of like it's a joke. It's almost like I wanted to say a dead phrase, but no, it's a joke. Like if you go anywhere in the world and tell somebody that, they'll probably laugh at you. Like
Yeah.
there's just like, I mean, right now, this talking point of Iran being the largest sponsor of state terrorism is not true. We sponsor Israel and we send them more money than Iran sends all of their proxies combined. We send these people $3 billion a year. And then I looked at it after September 11th. They had a supplemental package, multiple supplemental packages sent to them. So since 2023, we've actually sent them $21 billion in weapons and in currency. Okay, and those points you raised about what if the world decided to come and hold America accountable? Well, the world can't do that militarily, but you know what they can do, AC? They can start dumping the US dollar, and we
Yeah.
would be absolutely screwed. The only reason we could accumulate this amount, I mean, this historic amount of debt, is because we're the world's reserve currency. About 57% of the world runs off of the US dollar, or they accept the US dollar. I should say that instead.
Yeah.
So this guy that's getting led by this leash behind us, he is leading us down a dark fucking road. He's leading us down a dark road of economic uncertainty and and soon, like right now, the stock market is up. The stock market doesn't always respond to real world reality. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, it's going to respond to the level of the, or rather the lack of confidence that people currently have in the US economy. And it's all going to go down from there until we find somebody with sense, somebody who knows what the F they're doing. Until that happens, we're screwed. And then it's like, if you're somebody who wants to invest in the US, or you're somebody, or like you're Europe, and you want to rely on the US for different things, for security mainly, how could you look at the US as a reliable partner when we go from Barack Obama to Donald Trump to Joe Biden, then back to Donald Trump, who just comes in and tears down everything? Not only does he tear down, like, or does he like put his foot in our allies, in our military allies who are not Israel, he pulled us out of the World Health Organization. And now we have an Ebola outbreak, which I pray to God, in Congo, which I pray to God it doesn't spread too far out of Congo. But could you imagine if we have another pandemic in the US with this idiot in charge? With no Dr. Fauci, with no with RFK Jr., the guy who admits to snorting dope off of toilet seats.
At least, at the very least, the tall uh, lady that Donald Trump brought in after Fauci and stuff like that, she may be a quack, but at least they had medical degrees. You're talking about the leader being Dr. Fauci, and then a guy who's lost his liquor. I mean, not his liquor, like lost his medical license
He probably
in
did too.
almost
Shit.
in almost every state. He probably can practice medicine in maybe one or two states, and that's within Dr. Oz. So you got somebody whose medical career was predicated on him becoming a member of Oprah Winfrey's show.
Bro, and do
So
you remember when that idiot got up stage and said, "Stop taking Tylenol. Tylenol's very bad. It causes autism. I looked at some studies and articles. There's no autism in Amish people because they don't take Tylenol. And I looked at Cuba. They have no autism because their pregnant women don't take Tylenol." And then Dr. Oz had to get on TV and said, "Listen, ladies, if you have a fever and you are pregnant, please take Tylenol. Do not listen to this orange idiot."
and that's the issue, because then it comes down to, if there is a pandemic, Dr. Fauci uh, was the head of the CDC, so he was the head. When I look at Oz and look at these two guys that Donald Trump has as supposed to be the heads of our medical coverage, or if anything, pandemics or anything happen like that, this is terrifying. It's actually terrifying because one dude will do anything for profits, although he tries to say, oh man, I can't let anything egregious go down like that because I did take the Hippocratic oath. But if it's profitable for me, hey, I may try to downplay it, depending on how it benefits me. So if there's a company that has a or is working on a cure that Dr. Oz may represent, as opposed to a company that actually has the cure with zero side effects, then you're gonna have to wonder which one Dr. Oz is going to put forth first. And that goes for a vaccination against anything. Which one is he gonna do first? Because at the end of the day, he lost his licenses because of money, not because he was doing something malpractice, like, or anything. You were endorsing companies that you knew the thing that they were selling wasn't it.
Not only that, just on that subject of vaccines, like think about vaccines are like I'm not gonna say they are a miracle, but like they are a breakthrough, probably like never seen before in humanity. Where from 1900 to 2000, we managed to increase the life expectancy of people in the United States from 45 to 69 years old. And that's not because people were dying when they were 45 years old. That's because you had children dying of childhood plagues like rubella and mumps and measles and all that nasty stuff. So then for decades, doctors and healthcare professionals, they're trying to sell parents, please get your kids vaccinated. Please get your kids vaccinated. They do a bunch of TV jingles. They managed to get the one or two vaccine companies from Europe to come here so that they could have a secure supply line for it. And then you have this idiot, Donald Trump and Bobby Kennedy, just dragging their nuts on little kids who are probably gonna. I mean, like right now we're going through an outbreak of measles, and from what I've read, that's going to be the what's the word I'm looking for? That's going to be like one of the what's the word I'm looking for? That's like the opening
The catalyst.
to more serious childhood plagues coming back, essentially. And we have to deal with these idiots. So like if you have a 10-month, or rather a 5-month-old baby or a 10-month-old baby, it's like you can't even take that child outside until you have that shot available to them because you don't know what can happen. You really don't. In this day and age with these idiots. And then you don't even like the amount of cases of measles that have been reported, it's probably way more than that if we just being honest. Because you might have people who can't even afford to go to a healthcare provider and get tested or test their kids rather.
But
So
we
we in some scary times, man. We in
Yeah,
some
but
scary times
just
in this
to just
country.
to end it off right here, we're also in the area where if things don't look good for the administration is going to fudge the numbers to tell you or
Also
give the
true.
perception that it's not as bad as you think it is, and anyone who's saying different is just trying to scare you or gaslight you or whatever, whatever. And that's just like, all right, we're in a no-win situation, honestly, when it comes down to the healthcare of us and just protecting us on our government protecting us from diseases and death from something that could be recalled, something that can be contaminated within the food system. Man, this is not good.
Absolutely, AC. So we're gonna leave the Iran war where it is. I mean, it's essentially been in the same place for the past month or 2 months or so. And we're gonna move on to something very sweet that happened just this week. Tulsi Gabbard resigns as director of national intelligence. Um, couldn't happen to a better idiot. This is the third cabinet firing, I believe, just this year, and all three of them have been women so far. Tulsi Gabbard, this is going to be the lasting memory people have of her. Just an absolute clown who at every turn betrayed her own principles and decided to go through almost weekly to monthly humiliation rituals for this administration and pretty much dragged her credibility for whatever it was before this. And it makes me sad, AC, because I remember really liking Tulsi Gabbard when I was like a teenager, when I was 18, 19 years old. I looked at her when she was a Democratic congresswoman from Hawaii. I looked at her like, yo, that's an outsider. Why does the mainstream media keep going at her? Now I get it. She is a Russian spy. Or rather, I should say, she probably is a Russian spy. She is a joke. She has no principles and will bend to either whoever is paying her or whoever could grant her that political expediency to get her goals. And her goals when she came into this administration was probably going to be a 2028 run. Now, Bro, this is you. You're just a clown. This is what people are gonna think about. I mean, every step of the way, she humiliated herself for this administration. And salute to Choco Kitty. Thank you so much for pulling up and Vacay Bay. I never forget the first mess up, which was early in the administration when Pete Hegseth and or rather when I can't remember the name of the dude. He's our ambassador to the UN now, but that guy essentially added a journalist from the Atlantic to a group chat with Tulsi Gabbard, JD Vance, Pete Hegseth, and a smattering of other people. I remember the CIA director was also involved in it. And this fucking dude shares war plans to go and bomb the Houthis in Yemen. So if they could add somebody from the Atlantic to a group chat, that's where that sensitive type of information is being exchanged. They could have added a Chinese spy. I mean, we don't really know who's buttering this Atlantic reporter's bread. He could be. I mean, for all we know, he could have traded that information to the Chinese or to the Russians in exchange for like a piece of information from them for a source or whatever. So, and then the fact that you're the director of national intelligence, and yes, Mike Huckabee, irony boxing. Yep, it was Mike Huckabee. He was the one who added that reporter to the group chat. He was the advisor to national intelligence, I believe. So the fact that this lady, the director of national intelligence, didn't even pick up on that, was going outside of the ethical ways of exchanging classified information. Then she went up in Congress and got destroyed. AC, she got grilled, and like I don't have the clip. I wish I had that clip where they're asking her, Director Gabbard, is this classified intelligence? And she's just doing like the lawyer politician speak. Oh, blah, blah, I don't know of any da 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 da. Then they go right next to Radcliffe, the director of the CIA, who's sitting right next to her, and he says, "Were you involved in this group chat?" And Radcliffe says, "Yes, I was, and yes, that is sensitive information." I wish you could have seen her face, AC. It looks like somebody just stabbed her in her side, and she's just dying quietly in her chair. This on top of the fact, when we went to bomb Iran in June, and Donald Trump is out here saying they're building a nuclear bomb. Literally months before that, she testified to Congress that no, Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. And then when Donald Trump was asked about her testimony, Donald Trump said, "Oh, well, she's wrong. She's wrong. She doesn't know what she's talking about." I mean, like, it's just one humiliation ritual after another. Then, remember when the Epstein stuff was really coming out, they have this broad prance herself up to the podium and say, "Oh, I looked at the Russia investigation, and Barack Obama clearly colluded to overthrow Donald Trump's presidency in the first term. I'm recommending charges to the Department of Justice." 1 year later, nothing came out of that. It was just a nothing burger. Just a nothing burger. Then, like, but lastly, before I let you go, AC, this is another image that people are going to remember her for. When she was at the Fulton County election center, and the FBI went in there and seized those ballots and documents. Firstly, she should have had no knowledge of this at all whatsoever. This is not her department. On top of the fact that speaks to a certain level of collusion between the judge that signed off on the warrant and Donald Trump himself. And she's standing there on the phone with Donald Trump, telling him whatever is going on. Like, I mean, I just want to know, was it worth it? Was it worth it, Tulsi?
Tulsi didn't know.
Go ahead, AC. I mean,
I,
unbelievable.
I was just going to say Tulsi didn't know that what was being done to her was a classic Putin play. You take someone from the opposition who generally opposes some key things you want to do. And what you do, you make them ahead. So what it does in the voter's mind, is, yeah, in that administration, Tulsi Gabbard, and this is what they keep talking about on both sides. She was a a person who was against all new wars. She joined the administration, you know what I'm saying, because she believed in Donald Trump's promise of starting no new wars. And then to put her strategically in position to where it's she has to contradict her own core beliefs, the thing that she left the Democratic Party for, to join Donald Trump. Now you have to go through that level of humiliation over and over and over again, which then at the end of the day, it shows this. Number one, there is no loyalty between the Democratic Party. Number two, um, the Democratic Party has shown through Tulsi Gabbard that their own principles they are not willing to fight for or stand up for. Because here we have Tulsi Gabbard. And this is what MAGA and the right are constantly gonna say now that she's gone. And they can rightfully say that because you're stepping down and you're leaving because of your core principles. And they're saying this was a humiliating experiment for her because it constantly violated her core principles, but yet she didn't walk away until it got here. If it was her core principles, the minute that they did it, she should have stepped down and resigned. To come out there and say that shit about Obama. And yeah, Tulsi Gabbard was a person who was uh, a rising star within the Democratic Party. You know what I'm saying? Because there were people who didn't want to go as far left as saying I'm a democratic socialist or I'm a progressive and things like that, but I'm a staunch Democrat and I don't like these wars. So there was that whole group, and even within some independents, that yeah, Tulsi Gabbard had a real future. She can draw numbers and voters, and at the end of the day, it just showed that uh, you're a populist candidate. You're just a populist. You're gonna say whatever sounds popular to get people to follow you, and the next thing that sounds popular, even though it may completely disagree with the last popular stand you had, you'll justify that with the new popular stand and say, well, listen, at the end of the day, people grow, opinions change.
Absolutely. And just quickly to aircraft carrier in the chat. Well, right now we're just reacting to some news. We're reacting to the Iran war, and we're reacting to Tulsi Gabbard resigning. Um, right now, well, the only solution to those specific issues is the democratic process, which is elections. Get these people out and hope that the next guy is better. Hope that they're not attached to the establishment that pushes for these types of wars. Which the only way I believe we can do that is to elect people who are not taking shadow donations, who are not taking donations from the APAC Israel lobbies, who are not taking donations from the AI lobbies. Who we're gonna get into that issue in a moment. I'm gonna propose some solutions to that. But staying on the Tulsi Gabbard of it all, um, I mean, like, and you're probably right, AC. I mean, you're probably right. You're probably right. You're probably right. This probably was a Putin playbook of taking somebody from the opposition party and then holding them up there so that everybody could say, well, they're not so different. You see, this is the Democrats are just the same, but I'm just really stunned. Like the level of shit, and she might go to jail. If I get the administration I want in 2028, this broad is going to jail. I'm not playing at all whatsoever. She hid a whistleblower complaint concerning her and another person leaking classified information to Russia. So if I have my way, she's gonna go to jail. But let me let my brother Irony Boxing up to the panel. Irony Boxing, how you doing, my brother? How you doing?
I'm good. How you guys doing? God bless. Great to
Yeah,
be here.
man, we good, we good. Just reacting to some recent news. We're reacting to the broad. the who I used to think Tulsi Gabbard was so fine, man. It's such a shame what's happened to her.
Oh, I still feel that
But
way. It's just that she's an idiot, but that doesn't make her less fine.
yeah, but go ahead, give me your reaction to her resignation. Which, by the way, they say she's resigning because her husband was diagnosed with bone cancer.
Yeah, sure.
It could be, but personally, I think if
Nah.
she wasn't such a clown, I mean, and if Donald Trump did not want her gone, I think she would still be in the job. But go ahead.
No, I mean, she went on Sean Ryan, and she I haven't seen that interview, so I can't really speak too much about that. But she was one of the ones that was firmly like against the war on Iran. You remember she was like selling shirts and all this crap. You remember that?
Yep, yep. She
So
monetized it. Yep.
exactly. So um, I, the only one that I respect is Joe Kent out of all of them that resigned because Joe Kent saw the writing on the wall with the Iran war. He saw the Israel interference and everything, and he got the hell out of Dodge. And now he's explaining. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, Joe Ken, the head
The
of
counter, yeah, counterterrorism.
counterterrorism. Yeah, go ahead.
Um, but she's one of those. What my impression of her is that she did this until it was untenable for her to do this, and she resigned. She got off the boat, and Russia, bro. Listen, man, Russia's the least of our concerns right now. We need to give Russia a rest, and we need to focus on the real problem, which is the big eye, you know.
Yeah, the Z
But
Force. Yeah, the Z Force.
yeah, I love that. And what was I gonna say? Okay, give me a second because I haven't eaten or anything. Let me gather my thoughts.
But I just wanted to say this. We can't,
Yeah,
in a certain sense, even with Donald Trump's first term, Russia was involved in it. Russia helped him get elected. Russia was also the reason why um, he was impeached twice. So, with that being said, with this administration, Russia has a deep entrenched role in it. Russia feeds Donald Trump the playbook on how to get things done, how to act like an authoritarian. You know, how to just keep throwing so many things out that nobody can kind of follow you, because you look at all of the key players from Steve Bannon to all of them.
yeah,
All of them have gone to Russia or had meetings with Russian allies who were in the room or sit at the table with Putin when Putin does what Putin's going to do. So we all say he's Donald Trump is the proxy or little doll or whatever to Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin uh, has plenty of money. Guess where else? Israel. So
Yep.
Israel takes money from the U.S. and they take money from Russia.
But not only that, AC. Before I let you go, irony. Me and AC. I remember I read an article from Dropsite News, and what essentially it intimated is that Jeffrey Epstein, along with some MIT scientists and some biohackers, they met in Russia with Putin and Russian scientists, and they were discussing along with Ehud Barak, the former Israeli prime minister, to discuss the issue of the fact that the Arab population, at least in terms of the birth rate, was outpacing the Israeli Jewish population, and they were discussing like how can we get more Russian Jews into the Holy Land, and whether that was going to be through labs creating designer babies, um, or whatever the case may be. Like they were talking about cloning people.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I don't know how much that had to do with Trump, but that's just again tying in Russia with Israel, um, and just the bizarreness of it all. And
But
then
it
with
ties
Donald
in.
Trump and Putin, but I gotta let irony go.
Yeah, yeah.
With Donald Trump and Putin, I mean, it just I really don't get it. Like Donald Trump, he talks about well, actually, I do get it. I do get it. Do I have that AC? No, I don't got it. I don't got the bubba. We know what it is. Irony. Jeffrey Epstein said it.
Yeah.
Putin got pictures of Trump blowing bubba. So we know why he's so nice to Putin. We know why he doesn't make any nicknames for Putin, because Putin will really send that nigga to hell.
Exactly. Exactly. We must not forget Russia and Eastern Europe, for that matter, is one of their strongholds, the Zionist strongholds, like Florida, New York, New Jersey, Israel, obviously, and Eastern Europe. And I'm sure that I'm forgetting a few other places, but those are most of their strongholds. I think they traced it all the way back to the one that was during JFK time. I can't remember his fucking name. All of those PMs from Israel, they all come from Eastern Europe. Now, they don't all come from Russia. Some of them come from Poland, Ukraine, whatever the case may be.
Belarus.
Belarus, which is like Russia,
Moldova,
like puppy level Russia, Moldova, exactly. So it's definitely a stronghold. Not only that, most of the settler communities that are taking over Palestinian land for good are they're not Israeli guys. They are they are either from New Jersey. I forget. I watched that Tyler Oliveira show when he exposed whatever you feel about that man. He exposed the hell out of that community. Can't remember the name in New Jersey, but whatever. They're taking them from them because there's not that many of them, guys. That's why they need the USA, because they know they can't conquer Iran. That's impossible, right? If nothing else, because Iran is tied with Russia and China. So that ship is fucking sailed. But they want the regime to fail. They want Iran to be Libya. You know, they want a failed state. They want mayhem so they can control the area. And by the way, the dude that's opposing Netanyahu in Israel, his name is Naftali Bennett, I think.
Yeah,
He's
even worse. He's even
exactly,
worse.
Exactly. He's the one that said, and he said this like not too long ago. He said Turkey is the new Iran. Well, good fucking luck with that, homie, because Turkey ain't no fucking joke either. Like they're under the impression that everyone is Palestine. Yeah, okay.
No, but not Turkey is a NATO ally.
So
yes. let them fuck around and try. Let them, and I think that's part of the reason why Donald Trump is trying so hard to delegitimize NATO and talking all this crap about pulling us out of NATO.
I was just about to say that, because there's a bigger problem that I'm going to address in a second. That I'll tell you guys. But what they're going to do first is try to get Turkey out of NATO. They're going to they're going to make some false flag operation. They're going to get something on Erdogan. Erdogan ain't no damn saint, but nevertheless,
he's an authoritarian.
Exactly. So it is kind of, well, I'm not going to say easy, but it's easier for them to pull a Gulf of Tonkin or a 9/11 on someone like Erdogan as opposed to somebody else. You know, like they love to start, you know what bugs the hell out of me, bro? And I'll get to the bigger issue in a second, but Zionists love to start history at October 7th. They love that shit, right?
Yep.
And the same with the neocons. They love starting Iran history at 79. And I'm sorry, there was a democratically elected president. His name is Mossadegh, I think, back in 53, that they overthrew, exactly, in Iran, that they overthrew because he wanted to the oil to be for the Iranian people. You know, what a radical idea, you know, to have our resources for our citizens, you know. Go figure, right? So yeah, that's why they love to start history at very specific situations. And I've had debates with people all over. I found another politics channel that goes every day, and oh my goodness, I've been in a massacred Zionist in that bitch. But the bigger issue is this, guys. Have you heard, Smotrich, Ben Gvir, Netanyahu, all those pieces of shit talk about the third temple? You've heard that, right? The building of the third temple. I've
Yeah.
heard even the Kexbreath, the minister of war, whatever the fuck he's called, even he has
And
said
well,
that, right?
watch all the cussing irony. But keep
Oh,
cooking. I like that you cook. I like the way you cooking. But keep just pull. You could cuss, but pull it
yeah.
back a little bit. Not
Let,
every sentence. You know what I'm
let,
saying?
let me be on my best behavior then. Okay. The the bigger issue with the third temple is that's where the Al-Aqsa Mosque is located. So to build the quote unquote third temple that the Zionists need to build for their quote unquote prophecy to happen, right? Um, they're going to have to demolish that mosque. Now, that mosque happens to be one of the oldest holy sites in Islam. They got Mecca, they got Medina, they got a few more. Al-Aqsa is like the top five for them. So as soon as they do that, gentlemen, welcome to World War III. Because the entire Muslim population is going to turn on them, and they're going to obliterate them. Now, that's one way that they have for World War III. Another way is just to drop a nuke. Now, they might do both, but and I say all this to say this: they are, look this up, United States and Israel, because the custodianship of the Al-Aqsa Mosque is Jordan right now, right? That's the responsibility of the custodianship of the Al-Aqsa Mosque relies on Jordan, and Israel and the United States, as we speak, are trying to strip that custodianship away from Jordan. So yeah, that's where we're headed, guys.
But
AC, any thoughts?
at the end of the day, I feel like this. I don't. I'm a proud atheist. I don't believe in none of that religious bullshit. I don't. I'm not a person that rocks with people trying to bring those things into the political space and things like that, because the goal is for your people not to do something that, if you just read it on face value, you're talking about the destruction of the entire world. So if this new mosque is supposed to be this, then another religion can say, well, by doing that, that will start to bring about Armageddon, because it's going to trigger all of us, blah blah blah, yada yada yada, all the other dumb shit. So I don't try to go down those rabbit holes and stuff like that, because the core belief system just doesn't make any sense to me to begin with. So it's just crazy folks trying to do some crazy shit. Um, when I was speaking of Russia and Israel, in the sense of them controlling Donald Trump, that's where I was speaking and leaving it. Listen, they control this man, the two of them. Russia makes money off of both Israel and the USA. He makes money off of the Arabs versus Israel. So when you talk about Russia, Russia is making money on both sides, but somehow, some way, it's more leaned on one person. Like I said, I know who's standing in front of me holding a gun to my head. And quiet as kept, homie. I know the real dude who sent you. The real dude who sent you. Not him. The other dude. Yeah. Yeah, y'all. He's got a nice playbook going. Because what you forgetting is he used to run the CIA of his country. All the secrets, how to do espionage, how to control, how to bring governments up and then topple them. So that's who
That's
that
the
dude is.
KGB that you're saying, yeah.
Um, CIA, KGB, it's semantics, but it's the same organization. So what I'm saying is this: at the end of the day, this dude knows how to do all of that. Plus, he knows how to kill you with his bare hands. So you're dealing with someone different. Netanyahu is a student. You ain't no real killer. You're not no real gangster. You got your rise to fame came from doing these huge intellectual debates, and then you ran for power. Donald Trump, you're a TV celebrity. There's only one real dude in that situation, and that it shows because he's the one controlling everything. If I want you to go to war because I need something done, then yeah, I'm gonna have you go to war so I'm distracting from what I'm gonna get done over here. I just needed you to go to war because I needed this thing done over here while I manipulate this guy. Y'all focus on that, but I'm gonna be doing this over here. Putin is the master of that. And sometimes history gives you more answers than a research that starts like Irony was talking about, maybe in 1975, maybe in yada yada yada. So if you can go back past that, many generations past that, you see all the rises and fall, rises and fall, rises and fall, rises and fall. Then he got tired of it and he followed the uh the Hitler playbook because Germany was going through the same thing. Rise and falls, rise and falls, rise and falls. Economic, the whole nine. Hitler used that and he used that on the back of otherisms. For Putin, the otherisms is the world because the world left us. Look at all the sanctions from the world. So the most dangerous person on the planet is the guy who's manipulating everybody. And that's why for me, I don't take my eyes off of you. I know who your minions are, and I know you sent this dude right there to put that gun in my face. And as soon as I deal with him, I'm coming after you, and I'm coming after your man's right there. Because I already know you're weak. Both of y'all. So that's the type of politician I would be looking for. The politician who's aware of what things really are, not what things perceive to be, and he's not a populist, and you're going to try to feed me populist rhetoric.
And just quickly, AC, well, yeah, AC, to aircraft carrier in the chat. Number one, Donald Trump has reduced supplies and funding to Ukraine. Like Ukraine now has to buy weapons from us. We don't give it to them like how we used to. That's just number one. We also shut down intelligence sharing with them. So that's number two. Also, it's documented. Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, met with the Russians along with Steve Witkoff so that they could get dirt on Hillary Clinton in the 2016 campaign. Now, Mueller's report found that, well, there was no actual evidence that Donald Trump knew anything about it. Okay, fine, no problem. But there's also the fact Russia attempted to hack the DNC. That's documented. You can go and hear Marco Rubio talk about it all right now. Like he was the head of Senate Intelligence who conducted that investigation into the 2016 election. On top of the fact, and then just touching back to Ukraine, Ukraine is in a position right now where number one, they're being funded by the European Union, and number two, they have brilliant tacticians on the ground in Ukraine, and have been through 5 years of war, and right now they have the upper hand over Russia, and Russia is begging for terms. Putin is now talking about this is going to be the last year of the war. After he started out saying they would take Kiev in 2 weeks. So
Uh,
just a lot of
but real,
inaccuracy. And then one more thing, AC, before I let you go, to Vacay Bay and to aircraft carrier. Number one, I don't necessarily believe that democracy has anything to do with God. So I don't know why you said how we could believe in democracy and not necessarily believe in God. The entire idea of liberal democracy and liberalism was founded by an atheist, John Locke. So there's that. And then to Vacay Bay, I don't believe in a sky daddy. I don't believe in that there's some guy looking down on us and he's saying and he's writing all our sins in a book, and if you mess up, you're gonna burn in the eternal pit of hell, and if you curse his name, he's gonna strike you down with lightning, and he's got angels that he's ready to send to cut you down, or if you're like if you engage in debauchery, like the story of Solomon and Gomorrah. Now I believe in an intelligent creator. I believe that this universe is very despite the fact that it looks big and chaotic and there's so many like just trillions upon trillions of moving parts. I believe that this universe is very ordered, especially when you just make it more microscopic to life itself. Like every, or at least in our solar system, we revolve around the sun. The sun is the building block of almost every life, of almost all life, at least in the context of our solar system and the Earth. Okay, carbon is another building block. Hydrogen is another building block. All of that, and when we get that all together in a soup, human beings and all life forms from that. And then on top of the fact, when you just look at us ourselves, everything is very ordered. You need to, if you are going to be a living being, you need to have an energy source. So in our case, as human beings and as organisms, or as mammals, we have to eat in order to feed ourselves. So God or the intelligent creator put us on a plane where we have plants, we have animals, and those plants also have to get their energy sources. They get most of them get their energy sources from uh, hydrogen, from H2O, and from the sun. And then animals and us, we eat those plants and we continue to feed ourselves. And then just looking at our bodies, and you break it down to a cellular level, our cells that fight off diseases, our blood, our organs, even the fact that we have a rib cage that protects our organs, it's all very ordered. The fact that you have to, in order to get human life, or in order to get mammal life rather, a sperm has to interact with an egg, and then that has its own process. It's all very ordered. You know what I'm saying? That's why I believe that in the idea of an intelligent creator, but I don't believe in a sky daddy. I don't do none of that. I believe in like the moralistic teachings of Christianity. I believe in. I am a Christian because I'm a follower of Christ, but I'm not a follower of organized religion. I'm not a follower of the Catholic Church or of a Baptist or evangelist church that tell you you got to donate and give your money and all that stuff, and you got to follow sets of rules or else Sky Daddy will be mad and won't bless you. I mean, some of the most evil people in this world, the president for one. Look at, I mean, this is not. I mean, look how like blessed he is. This man should be in jail right now. Instead, he's just piling up the money by the billions and then screwing over everybody else. Elon Musk. Like, I could just show you so many different examples. Like, I think that, like, humanity itself, we have progressed to an age. And I think Christianity, you could say, yes, Christianity was a big part of us, like, steering ourselves in a certain moral direction. But no, like, I just, like, I just
No,
like
but
I'm somebody.
I see.
I believe in human secularism. I believe in do unto others as you'll have them do unto yourselves. I believe in like bodily autonomy. I believe in the doctrine that a man has to be able to own themselves in nature, same as any other animal and organism on this earth. And like that's the main tenets of like freedom, I believe. But
Well,
go ahead,
freedom
AC. If
doesn't
you have any
start.
responses to aircraft carrier and
But
vacay bay
freedom
and
for
all of
me,
them.
freedom doesn't start with an omnipotent being says, if you don't praise me every day, all day, for breathing, for the ability to spit, for the ability to walk, blink, and everything else, then I'm going to take away from you everything that you love, everything
Exactly.
that you care for. And to further punish that, I'm going to put you in perpetude, a place that is just meant to torment you for the rest of eternity. When you have things like that, I cannot, at the very core of me, knowing that if there is structure and that structure gave me a brain, and I have what's called individualism, and within that individualism, I have the ability to question. Question is the first step of getting out of confusion, getting out of a state of confusion. The question requires an answer. Either I believe the answer or I don't, or I research the answer, or I let time itself show me the answer. When Marky was talking about the sun, to create a star, that means another star exploded that was a lot bigger. And all the gas that surrounded that star formed into heavy elements. Here's the thing. For every one of the 8 or 9 planets and the rocky celestials and everything like that, everything that's in them is in us. We are a result of that giant star that exploded and then formed this star, and then it formed these planets, and then everything else. That cannot be something that's just whatever. It's just how it works. Just like the human body creating cells, replenishing the skin. You get cut, it heals back. There is new skin that grows. You feel what I'm saying? Is there a divine order within my own self that makes that happen, or does it happen at a scale that if I'm not aware of it, of platelets, white blood cells, and things like that, then I wouldn't know. So we're still trying to figure this living organism out that is the universe. And when you take it from that, then you can't be caught up in simple wars that are based on religious beliefs and if they do this and if this is done.
Aircraft carrier doesn't. If you believe in a star, but you don't believe in a God, you can literally look up at the sky and see stars. Aircraft carrier. Like, what do you mean by that, aircraft carrier? What are you
Yeah, he just
talking
want to
about?
troll at this point. So I'm not even, you know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, for me, the type of atheist I am, I studied religions. Like there are literal, I've talked with Baptists that went to universities and stuff like that and say, how are you so knowledgeable about religion and belief systems and things like that, but you choose not to believe? I said, because it's a belief system. It requires me to take certain parts of what I know and just ignore them over the fact that something, this omnipotent creature created it. What if we're inside of an omnipotent creature? We don't know because we can't, at the end of the day, the human form that we are, we go over to Mars. To fly to Mars and then come back from Mars, no human will be alive during that trip, and that's 3 years. That's a 3-year trip. No human can survive or live to go to Mars and then come back. So that tells you something that there is, that when I look at another more intelligent being, is it more likely I'm a descendant of that thing? Because we still see the ships. They have these weird names, UFOs and UAPs. But yet in every one of the holy textbooks, they always talk about this. Someone or something came from the sky and taught human beings or had a major role in the advancements of human beings. To the human that doesn't know that, would that be a god? Let's investigate that. Yes, it might be, because that's even the way the fantasy world of comic books. Superheroes reach godlike status. Superman can now go and survive inside of our yellow sun because of his Krypton alien powers, and now he comes out with godlike Superman. You see what I'm saying? Flash runs so fast that he reaches a quantum level of speed, breaking the speed of light. Now he's a godlike because he's done something that the universe physics doesn't allow. So to in that comic book space, in the real world, if a ship landed and that ship, the people on that ship could fly and pick up a building and slap a mountain, bro, we would think that they were gods or angels. It's just that simple. So understand where we are, understand the terminology, understand in these biblical spaces who the message was for. It wasn't for you or me. It wasn't for anybody who is pretty much 30 years old and older. It was for the youth, because the youth are the ones to make the difference. You have more time to make the change. There are no filters you have to deal with that's concerning life. That's why people talk about life being life, or life be lifing, because life can change a person's perspective just on existence. And belief systems will have a major role in how you move forward. Bitter
Yeah,
people are bitter people.
I
I'll land it here. Bitter
yeah.
people are mad because they had promises that ran through filters, and some of those filters were through religion. I am blessed because, well, whoever's on the side of that blessing feels that they're blessed. Donald Trump, by what's the name's own admission, said he is blessed because he's been able to stay out of jail and do all of these egregious things. But to us, to somebody who would be a religious person or be someone who's non-religious, to say there is no blessings whatsoever. You just manipulating the system because of your wealth and because people choose to capitulate to you.
Absolutely. I mean, and then on top of the fact, like, what? Why would God put this man back in office to then pull USAID, which has killed millions of people around the world, like hundreds of thousands of children in Africa who had AIDS or who starved to death or who had malaria and were getting treatment from USAID.
Well,
Like I just don't believe in the concept of a sky daddy who's up there like moving everything around and moving all these parts into place, and if you pray hard enough to him, like it'll happen to you. I don't believe in that. Like I believe in the capacity and the expanse of the human mind. I think that's God. I think that in a certain sense is godness, because the expanses of our minds to create and to think about things and to what's the word I'm looking for, contemplate certain things and think on it. I think it's limitless for, and I think that the tenets and the moralism of Christianity and Jesus Christ definitely definitely inspired people like John Locke. When you think about the teachings of do unto others that you'll have them do unto yourself, that was definitely something that inspired democracy in a certain way. I don't like. I mean, I am a Christian. I am a Christian aircraft carrier. You know what I'm saying? I'm very good to my fellow man. Like Jesus Christ calls. Well, one of the main tenets, and this is something that you're. As a matter of fact, you're not a Christian aircraft carrier, because one of the things that you do, you judge people a lot. That's one of the number one things that Jesus Christ himself said not to do when Mary Magdalene was about to get stoned to death. Another great teaching or a story or parable from the Bible, the parable of the Good Samaritan. It's another teaching from Jesus Christ. He himself literally said, the people who are out here saying we believe in God so strongly, those are not that doesn't necessarily mean that they're good religious or moralistic people. Those are the same people in the story of the Good Samaritan, the Levantian priests who saw their Jewish brother on the road dying and then walked over him. And it was the Samaritan who has a completely different faith system from them, who doesn't necessarily believe in an afterlife. I don't believe in an afterlife. Who doesn't necessarily believe in a monotheistic God. He was the one who picked up the Jewish man and cared for him and made sure he was okay. That's the main tenets of Christianity. That, like, Jesus Christ left us with two very simple, well, not well, they were very simple. He said, love your neighbor as you love yourself, and love God with all your soul and spirit. I love God by and when I say God, I'm talking about the intelligent creator. I love God by loving my fellow man. Like you can ask anybody in my community. I'm one of the nicest, coolest, most even-tempered people you will ever meet. Okay, I got a lot of love for the kids out here in my community. Anytime I have a chance to give $1 or to give my time to the kids in the community, I do it, and I do it without expecting anything in return. I mean, when somebody comes up to me and asks me, "Yo, I'm struck. Can you help me with this?" I will help them. Like I just bought literally when I got paid my food, I bought a homeless man some tacos. Like that's part of Chris. That's part of being a follower of Christ. Is putting out your hand to your fellow human being and helping them and not judging them. Now, aircraft carrier, if you want to come up here and have a theological discussion, or we could do that on VK Base channel, I don't have any problem with that. Yeah, well, and that's my Christian duty, and that's what I'm doing, aircraft carrier. But anyway, man, aircraft carrier, I gave you enough time to combat your non-Christian just talking points. When people that talk like aircraft carrier are some of the least Christian people you will ever meet in your entire life. I just want to say that. But aircraft carrier, and I don't know if irony is back. Moving on, the DOJ aircraft or AC was dealt another huge humiliation. It's really a shame what's happening to this great institution, but a judge in Virginia, based on the filing from those police officers, from those Capitol police officers, has paused the Trump anti-weaponization fund, at least until a hearing in June. This was then followed up. Uh, and when I say pause, I mean they cannot give out any type of funds. They cannot choose board members to share out funds until this hearing and until a probe is done. Then AC, well, same thing, but then in the actual case where Donald Trump was suing the IRS for $10 billion, the judge has said, hold on, wait a minute, and has reopened that case after Donald Trump and the DOJ voluntarily tried to dismiss it so that they can do the settlement. The judge has now said, no, I'm going to probe what is going on, and I'm going to see if, quote unquote, fraud has been committed on the court. Because in this case, this is not really an adversarial issue. Donald Trump literally sued his own government that he's the boss of. And then is out here saying about how, oh, I could have took more money. Well, the judge has something else to say about that. And this all ties into the broader corruption and the broader consequences that are going to result for this DOJ, because just recently the DOJ is having a historic level of grand juries being overturned or grand juries just choosing not to indict. And in Chicago, I can't remember the specific case, but DOJ prosecutors essentially took grand jury members out into the hallway, AC, and instructed them about how strong the evidence is and da 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 da, which is completely irregular, completely illegal. And Judge Perry, a federal judge from out there in Chicago, she says here, quote, your sole goal is to do justice. Your client is justice itself. um, when Judge Perry told Andrew S. Burdos, the Trump-appointed U.S. attorney who appeared in court to apologize for his subordinates' mistakes, quote, I do believe deeply in the presumption of regularity and that most government attorneys are doing the best they can to do the right thing. That trust has been broken. And this AC, it ties into something we've had discussions about before. When will this administration lose the presumption of regularity after all these corrupt actions just topped on top of each other, one after the other? When we talk about Kilmar Abrego Garcia, another just like disgusting miscarriage of justice. Kilmar Abrego Garcia's criminal smuggling case was dismissed by a judge for gross vindictive prosecution because they were saying that he was smuggling somebody from I believe from the border up into Tennessee. And the judge just said it's absolute nonsense. Like you have nothing and threw the case out.
Well,
This on top of the fact we already know the background of Kilmar Abrego Garcia's case, where he was kidnapped by ICE agents, thrown into a holding center, and then shipped to a to El Salvador to CCOT, which is a death camp down there, without any due process of law whatsoever. And Kilmar Abrego Garcia had an order withholding him from being deported to El Salvador.
well,
This ties in. Well, yeah, go ahead and react to the judges pausing the weaponization fund and the loss of the presumption of regularity that's happening throughout. I mean, almost every federal district in the U.S. I mean, this goes also into the DHS violating court orders,
well,
refusing to let people go that were ordered released.
well. This is at the end of the day, um, where people are talking about voting right acts, and there are people on different sides saying why is this relevant, and no matter what, when people were when political people were talking about systematic or systemic racism or systematic racism and things like that, all of this stuff is indicative to it, because you know where the Supreme Court made the judgment to say, well, this stuff doesn't happen anymore, and it's like that. Well, listen, my friend, why are you trying to take away what white men put on writing about white men, that you have to be reminded that people are people, humans are human. You're not
Uh,
act.
an- Another thing, my bad for cutting you off, AC, but another thing about racial prejudice in the Supreme Court, if this DOJ was to lose the presumption, well, think about it. That order that came down that said ICE is allowed to racially discriminate based on people's skin color and based on their accents, that came down from the Supreme Court because of the quote unquote presumption of regularity. Because they said, well, I'm sure that the government is just trying to do their job. I really wonder what happens when they actually lose that, or if that even applies to like this just right wing Supreme Court. But my bad for
Well,
cutting you
the
off.
the the where I was gonna go with it is, when you're talking about the presumption of regularity, like the thing we were talking about before, you now are being able to make a legitimate case for disbarment of these judges, because you're violating certain constitutional rights, you're violating laws, you're violating precedents, you're losing everything that says, you know uh the bar is the one organization that holds lawyers and legal representatives of the law, um, to say, listen, we we are the arbiters of what everyone accepts as the community understanding. We all buy into this thing that the laws work, and if we challenge the laws, we go to the legal people to help us win. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But the law itself is supposed to be blind and be weighed on scales. The blind scales of justice. When one person or one group of people choose to lean on it, then we're losing the fundamental credibility of all laws. That means, okay, if a cop stops me for a red light, right? I just ran the red light. I know I did. I blew through it doing like 85 or 100 miles an hour in a 20-mile zone where school kids are. The cop choose to pull me over. I then take out my revolver and put two in the cop's dome. That's what these type of things do, because it eats away at it eats away at the social agreement that we all made. That laws are only effective if we all follow them. So if there's the people who are there to represent that, if they start breaking them and losing our trust, then that causes mayhem within the streets. So it's a scary slope that I don't know that, when you get on these weird sides of things, or you allow your religious and social beliefs to interfere with what you know as the law. Well, the law says this, but these criminals and we can pass the laws, but these lower level guys that didn't go to the university I went to and didn't make the judgeship that I did in the record time and things like that, they're letting these people, these bleeding hearts, they're letting these people just walk out, in the prison system and the court systems are now just a revolving door and blah 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 blah. They make these excuses and then these type of things happen because these judges start to believe it. That's why these judges should not be held to the part of being a supreme court. That shit shouldn't exist. It should have never really existed because at the end of the day, you can have a higher court. You feel what I'm saying, which is just a federal court. Doesn't have to be a Supreme Court to where there is no accountability for these judges except if the bar chooses to step in. And then the bar then starts to set precedents because they're going to say they disbarred a Supreme Court justice.
Speaking of Supreme Court justices, and unethicalness, Justice Alito. I don't know if you saw it, Samuel. I think his name is Samuel Alito. But I'll just call him Justice Alito. I don't know if you saw this, AC. It just got exposed that his son works as an attorney in the Treasury in a supervisory position, and that I haven't read the articles in depth, but it could be, and people are compiling and doing their analysis now. He has definitely presided over cases concerning the Treasury, and people are going through and trying to find out if he might have presided over cases specifically concerning his son's department within the Treasury. Which that alone, it just like, I mean, firstly, the idea that recusal alone lies only with a judge. It's the judge's decision if they want to recuse themselves. If they feel like the public would think that there's any impropriety, that is fucking. And I mean, that's nuts.
Because you
And
gave it
I
on, they gave it on. See, the problem with the way our government is built and the government is structured, it's structured in a way that it doesn't have a lot of language that says shall and must. We just take a lot of things just on the face value of presumption. This is the experiment. We are all gentlemen. It's the gentleman's agreement. Well, we ain't dealing with gentlemen no more. And that's the issue. When we gave the Supreme Court, and I'm not saying myself, I'm saying when the founding fathers and wrote it in, or amendments was made to where we had a Supreme Court. Because I I'm not I this is something I would just Google after I finish talking. What year was the Supreme Court formed and things like that? But when you're dealing with something to where you're calling it the Supreme and you're saying these are the most ethical judges. They can never be challenged. They can never be swayed. You know what I'm saying? And within that text of choosing these judges, we give the president the ability to nominate, and then the Supreme Court. I mean, then the Senate and the House have hearings to make sure this guy is legit. Now, the problem is all of Donald Trump's picks did not pass a bipartisan Senate vote. It was all one-sided, and it was manipulated by Mitch McConnell. So you broke the Supreme Court, Mitch McConnell, for Donald Trump. So are there uh, those ethical people out there that can still uphold the imagery, the perception of the Supreme Court? Yeah, because we have three of them that are sitting on the bench right now. It's just the other ones are morally corrupt. The other six. And they won't do anything to challenge because they within themselves have the ability to remove one of them.
like I have a lot of problems with Israel, but I love. I'm gonna say I love Israel's justice system. I really do. I love the fact that it's at least when we talk about the attorney general, it's inundated from the political process in that it's an independent board of experts, which are vote. Well, it's political in the sense people vote for those experts, but it's inundated from the parliament, from Netanyahu. They can't fire the attorney general. The attorney general gets to serve for a 7-year term. And that's how we should be when it comes to our Supreme Court justices and our attorney general. Like the Nixon, like the reforms that were put in place after Watergate, we're gonna have to go a step further after Trump. We're gonna have to go in order to get back the presumption of regularity, because, like you say, that is so important, and we can't just let it be lost.
Yeah.
We are gonna have to take the step of, number one, removing the appointment process from the political process in the sense of the Senate and the White House. Now, maybe the Senate and White House, maybe they can choose who one or two of the experts on that board is, but the rest of it, it should be voted on by the citizens. And that board, they will decide who gets to become a Supreme Court justice, and they should be given the same level of independence that we give the central bank, where they cannot be fired, they can't be pushed out of their job, they can't be threatened and pressured, because this is how we end up where we're at. We're about to, if it wasn't for the fact that we have somewhat of an independent judiciary, which, by the way, this is going to get appealed. This is going to get appealed, and it's going to go up to
Yeah.
it's going to go up to the Supreme Court, and then we're going to really see the corruption laid bare when they go and they say, well, the
But if
funds
they
were
do
already
that,
appropriated. The funds were already appropriated by Congress for the Judicial Judgment Fund.
but
So
Marky,
he can do whatever he wants.
Marky, whichever judge
No
signs on to
attention
that
paid
gets
to the
it
fact that
barred.
the president is suing his own agency.
This is what the bar is waiting for, and this is the red line that the bar will have to step in and say, okay, if we don't do this, then lawlessness is going to run through the streets. Every judge that sits on the bench, your court orders, everything don't mean nothing, because we just had the pinnacle of all judgeships. You know what I'm saying? You can be a district judge, you can be a federal judge, but you are there. Lifetime tenure. You feel what I'm saying? Your say is the final say. Your dissents make history. We're going to let that institution just fall apart and implode on itself. And we're going to take down 3 good judges in the process, regardless of how they vote. You see what I'm saying? So for me, it goes up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court rules in favor of this. The bar would be extremely lack in everything, which then discredits the bar in saying, okay, you disbarred other lawyers for the perception of impropriety, or actually committing a crime, or something like that. These are actual crimes that they're committing, because how do you justify the president suing its own government branch for his own personal reasons, as well as it is his own personal reason, because there's nothing in that lawsuit that says Donald Trump can't attach his name to it. He
Well,
was part
he
of
is that
J6. They want to
in
convict
that
him on
lawsuit.
J6. He was impeached because of J6. So, yeah, he can easily put his name in it. And all they had to do was just say, no, this was for everyone who was wronged by January 6th. And Donald Trump could have all of these people now trying to apply, but he says, you know what, I'm Trump. I was wronged the most because they impeached me. I want all of that money.
Well, I mean, but he's already benefiting from an AC because when within the settlement, it says that the IRS can never
Yes.
investigate him or audit his family ever again.
Yeah.
So just off of that, like he could literally go out and commit as much fraud he wants if this settlement were to go through, and the IRS would be able to do nothing. Like he could literally just not pay taxes for the rest of his life, and the IRS could do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I, I mean, just truly, truly disgusting. Before we move on to the data centers of it all, I just wanted to bring this up as well, AC. E. Jean Carroll, who is the woman that sued Donald Trump for sexually assaulting her in the 90s and won. Donald Trump was civilly adjudicated by a jury of his peers as a rapist for what he did to E. Jean Carroll, forcefully penetrating her with his fingers in a department store dressing room. And then she also sued him after she won that $5 million judgment. She then sued him for $80 million for defamation when he said that he never knew who she was and said she's a lying lunatic, and because that ruined her career as a journalist. Because essentially he ruined her credibility. So he sued her for that, or she sued him for that, and won $80 million. And the judge specifically said in that case, yes, you could call Donald Trump a rapist based on this judgment because it's understood that sexual assault is basically the same thing as rape. The Department of Justice is now opening a probe into E. Jean Carroll for allegedly perjuring herself in a civil deposition. I'm not kidding. And the thing that they're saying may be perjury, it is not. It's not perjury at all. Um, she was asked in the deposition if any outside funding was coming in for this lawsuit. She said no. At the time, that was the case. That was true and factual. 6 months later, about 2 weeks before the trial, a billionaire, I can't remember his name, he's out of Chicago, stepped forward and offered her funding so that she could to help with her lawsuit, which isn't irregular. That happens all the time, where you have donations to help with lawsuits. So 2 weeks before the trial, her lawyers voluntarily stepped forward and said, "Your Honor, we need to amend the statement. We are now currently receiving this funding from an outside source." The judge went through, looked at the motions, and she said, "Okay, I don't see anything irregular. We'll just redo the deposition." In the deposition, E. Jean Carroll says, "Yes, I'm taking funding from an outside source," and that's it. That's all they're like investigating. It's like it's so thin. It's like I don't even have any words. And then when like I did my research, in the last 30 years, the only people to be prosecuted for perjury in a civil proceeding, specifically in depositions, is three people. And all three of them had either ties to organized crime or government corruption. Not somebody that sued because a dude forced himself on her in the freaking 90s. And if anything, Donald Trump should be, if he could be charged with perjury, like in that deposition for the case, AC, Donald Trump was literally asked if he'd ever met E. Jean Carroll, and he said no, which is just an obvious and blatant lie. On top of the fact he mixed her up with his ex-wife Marla Maples. Again, the presumption of regularity. I want them to bring this guy. Like I wish they would bring this to a grand jury so that they can get another just humiliation.
Yeah. Now that was the thing I was gonna say earlier. Donald Trump, Mueller did find the smoking gun for Donald Trump in colluding with Russia. But remember, um, what was the DA's name? The chubby guy. I just said his name.
Barr.
Yeah, Bill Barr told him you can't investigate that. Mueller was just about ready to testify, like, and in his testimony, he was like, when the Democrats was talking to him, he was like, yeah, I started to see clear evidence of that, but when I took it to see if I can get the charge to move forward in investigating that, those investigations were shut down by then General Attorney Bill Barr. And even the second dude came out and he said, get rid of all of that information. So there within Mueller's report, it was clear evidence that Donald Trump did collude with Vladimir Putin, hands down. You feel what I'm saying? And there were reports that Donald Trump was asking for things, you know, and Russia would give it to him. Even within, and that's the way they communicated through those speeches. When Donald Trump was like, well, Russia would, if Russia was good, they would get this from me, and then Donald Trump would get it. They found clear evidence of what that stuff was going on. But outside of that, dealing with these laws and dealing with how the Supreme Court is moving and finding this man guilty, and even in this case with E. Jean Carroll and stuff like that, the goal is now to discredit E. Jean Carroll. So they're going to try to investigate her just like they went after, Mueller and everybody else off those thinly veiled, like they try to say you did something with mortgage fraud.
Yeah,
Like,
you're talking about Letitia James, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, what? Like, seriously? Like, y'all can't prosecute a dude who threw a ham sandwich at somebody. Get out of here.
But the thing that just kills me is, like, Donald Trump said it himself. He said it himself that he loves to grab women by their you-know-what. He said it. Like, he thinks that shit is cool. I mean, he says that he likes poking his head in on little girls in their dressing rooms. Not only that, in his deposition, I'm trying to get the video up right now because it's so just shocking that this actually came out of this dude's mouth. In his deposition, he said it himself. Oh, yes, Eugene Carroll, yes. She said it was very sexy to be graped. She said she loved it. And then, like, the attorney doubled back. He said, wait, sir, are you testifying that Eugene Carroll enjoyed being sexually assaulted? And he says, yes, I thought I heard her say that, didn't she? She enjoyed it. She loved it. If that's really a sky daddy, why would he do that? Why would he make this depraved human being leader of all of us? You gotta make that make sense to me. And I'm trying to get the video. Give me one second, because it's really striking just how brazen this dude is with this crap. Oh, this is the one with where he mistakes Eugene Carroll for Marla Maples.
I don't even know who the woman. Let's see. I don't know who. It's Marla.
You say Marla's in this photo?
That's Marla. Yeah, that's my wife.
Which woman are you pointing to? No, that's
Here.
Carol.
Oh, is that?
The person you just pointed to was
I
Eugene
see.
Carroll.
Who is that? Who is this?
Point, your wife. And the woman on the right is your then wife.
I don't know.
Ivana?
This was the picture.
Ivana.
I assume that's John Johnson. Is that
That's Carol.
Carol? Because it's very blurry.
Oh my God. You really can't make this up. And like, the thing that always kills me with this idiot, AC, is his level of confidence. Like, he just exudes confidence no matter how dumb he looks and sounds. He's pointing, yes, that's my wife. That's my wife right there. He says, they said, wait, point to the lady? Oh, that's my wife. He says, no, that's E. Jean Carroll. That's the lady accusing you for grape. Oh, no. Isn't that John Johnson? No, that's E. Jean Carroll. That's E. Jean Carroll. And then, like, this is it was sexy. She said it was sexy to be graped. This is
I think she said it was sexy, didn't she? It was very sexy to be raped. Didn't she say that?
So, sir, I just want to confirm. It's your testimony that Eugene Carroll said that she loved being sexually assaulted by you? And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything. That's what you said, correct?
Well, historically, that's true with stars.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by the
Well, that's if you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true.
He said over the last million years. like
You
what?
really just can't make it up with this dude. Like it's like my mother said, like because she learned, she admired Trump for business. Just shine up that old, rusty, broken down 1950s Ford Cavalier. Shine it up, no matter how rusty and creaky it is, and you sell the hell out of it. That's Donald Trump. That is Donald Trump. I mean, this man just like I gotta get. He exudes confidence, no matter how dumb he sounds.
He's just confidently dumb.
Pretty much, man. But I see. Let's get off of the this week in corruption in DOJ corruption. Let's get off of this, and let's move to the data centers of it all. The data centers of it all. So we need to have a reckoning in this country when it comes to data centers. It is getting out of control. They and they are and by the way, there is I should say there is a reckoning coming with these data centers and the harm and the effects that it has on everyday life. To the amount of space they take up. This facility right here is the Reno the Switch Reno campus, which is the largest data center in the United States of America. From the sky, it doesn't necessarily look the biggest, but apparently this is about 308 football fields of land taken up for these data centers. Okay? This is a data center in Spain. This is 500 football fields of land taken up for this data center. And we're gonna and let's talk about it, man. Data centers have been around for like for decades. Like they've been powering much of what we do online, but the AI boom has created this like ravenous need for more computing power, and in the process, something extraordinary seems to be happening. Like people across the political spectrum are coming together in opposition to these data centers. The AI backlash has galvanized people like I know you don't like him, AC, but like Bernie Sanders and AOC, who are the only people in Congress who stepped forward and proposed a data center moratorium in Congress. But you also got people from the populist right, where people like Steve Bannon are saying that tech elites who are investing billions into the AI infrastructure build out of control. One of those billionaires is where is that punk? Where's that punk? I swear to God, I just had a photo. Oh, here he is. I forget his full name. Kevin something from Shark Tank. Look at this punk. Look at him. Look at the slippers he got on with the background on a TV while he's on Fox News pitching a data center in Utah. And he's literally a foreign billionaire from Canada who's coming in to say that the people of Utah have no clue what they're talking about. And if they say anything against my data center that I'm putting up, then they're probably owned by China. Meanwhile, this guy's a fucking foreign billionaire just coming in to steal these people's, or not steal these people's land, but to build a monster consuming, a monstrous energy and resource consuming machine on their land, which will have like effects on them for generations. Okay, so like most notably from all of this, AC, is the reaction from regular citizens. A May Gallup poll found that 70% of Americans, a supermajority, oppose the construction of an AI data center in their community. Across the country, in local town halls and community meetings, grassroots activists and concerned residents are coming together to protest these projects, and in many cases, they are actually winning. As the website Heat Map reported this month, at least 20 proposed data centers were canceled following local opposition in the first quarter of 2026. This includes an effort in Montana, which was going to build a 5,000 acre data center, which is 3,800 football fields. Literally, a little lady, I believe her name was Cassie, she got her people together and they said, hell no, you're not building this near us. So the stakes of this fight are the stakes of this fight on either side are reasonably clear. You have the big tech AI hyperscalers who are investing historic amounts of money in these buildings. According to reports, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, and Google alone have already spent more on data centers since the launch of ChatGPT than the federal government has spent to build the entire interstate highway system. Tech companies need to keep building these facilities, and they need to do it fast in order to keep up with demand. But also, this expectation that these models are going to get better and better when it comes to efficiency. But data centers are expensive. They take a lot of time to build, and data centers have become this potent symbol for those who are skeptical of AI. They represent not only like the AI itself, like is a digital problem, but these data centers, they represent a physical problem of big tech in these communities, specifically
Bro.
rural communities. Oh, hold on, AZ. I got a lot more to say. Now I'm gonna let you
Okay.
cook on this fully. You already know.
All right.
Many data centers, they're powered by natural gas turbines. And locals in these rural communities, they have fears about energy use, water use, pollution, and there are national fears about data centers driving up energy prices, and they're right to be afraid. So, according to some research I did, AC, um, through some peer-reviewed studies, AI data centers in the U.S. in 2025 alone accounted for 80 to 100 million tons of CO2 released into the air, which is comparable to your backyard. It's comparable to New York City. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Data centers consumed 760 billion to 1 trillion liters of water. That accounts for 10% of all water consumption in the United States. So 1 in 10 water consumption comes from AI data centers. All this water goes towards cooling the data center servers, which run around the clock. This is without even mentioning AI pollution or AI data center pollution. And I want to play this video of AOC, my girl, I love her to death, in Congress talking to an EPA department
I
head.
visited Morgan County, Georgia, where Meta is building a massive data center campus. They are clear-cutting forests and began heavy construction, including explosive blasting. And families in the area are starting to see not only their water pressure decrease, but their appliances are have all stopped working because it is decimating their water quality. They now rely on bottled water to drink and prepare meals, and nearby residents' water bills are expected to increase by 33%. In fact, I have a jar right here. This is the current drinking water in Morgan County, Georgia. Right after a data center was constructed, the Meta data center was constructed. The only difference between the clean water and this was that data center. I have another one as well. So this wasn't just one well. These wasn't just one family's situation. This is what the drinking water now looks like next to that data center. Both of us can agree that neither one of these things are drinkable. These families now have to ship, in a rural area, have to ship water to their house in order to cook and bathe themselves. I'm curious if the EPA plans any investigations on how data centers are affecting water quality and availability.
I will be looking into exactly what you've just talked about, because anywhere, whatever type of construction it is a priority to ensure that water quality standards established by EPA are being met. And so we'll be looking into that.
So the mere fact that that lady had no clue that this was going on should terrify everyone.
Yeah, for
Look
many
at that
reasons.
water. Look at that. Look at that AC.
Mm-hmm.
That is what comes out from a data center using a natural fresh water source like a river or lakes that are connected to other people's wells and whatnot. And then and then AOC just talked about the economic hardship of it, because now these families in rural areas, they have to ship water in by freighter trucks. So going deeper into this, according to a paper published by the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, using detailed hourly grid modeling across the U.S., existing data centers have already raised wholesale electricity prices by 6% nationally. And that's only going to grow when you consider the fact we have more data centers coming. So soon it's going to rise. It's going to push up energy prices by 10%. And this is happening particularly in places like Virginia and Texas and Georgia, which are data center heavy regions. Under plausible future build-out scenarios through 2028, prices could rise by 50% in some areas. These problems are made even worse when we consider the fact that the orange idiot in office has made the decision to downsize the EPA by 50%, leading to a 20-year low in enforcement actions. And the EPA, and they said this earlier this year, will no longer factor the impact on human life a project or a violation may have. So they're no longer going to factor how an AI center could damage human life. So I don't really believe that lady when she said she's going to look into this. I don't believe it. Because that's right now in their guidance. They're not supposed to look at how a freaking data center affects people's drinking water and how that could lead to all different type of diseases and death. So with little to no environmental regulators, AC, standing in the way, this creates the perfect situation for tech billionaires to continue building these environment-destroying monsters. So I bring all this up because Israel and Trump corruption have been dominating much of what we talk about in the political discourse on which is a bigger issue that should be tackled and addressed in 2026 and the 2028 elections. But if we don't address AI now, what future can we really expect our children's children to have? No jobs because AI robots are more efficient and they can work 24 hours a day and they cost less than paying an employee because you would only have to pay for like periodic maintenance. I mean, we can expect poverty conditions for them because not only is the job market going to be dead, but the cost of living will shoot through the roof with more construction of these AI data centers as they push up the price of energy. This is all without mentioning what the danger of what happens, AC. What happens when AI obtains the ability to improve itself, independent of human beings? Then they're going to look at human beings as a drain on their resources that they need to survive. So we're already beginning to give, and this is on top of it, we're already beginning to give AI the keys to our military through companies like Anthropic. So my thoughts on some feasible solutions. Number one, we need candidates in 2028 who are not taking shadow money from anywhere, because most of it either leads back to tech giants or Israel. Number two, we need someone who is going to rebuild the EPA and form a commission dedicated to studying AI's impacts on the environment and the cost to human beings, both economically and in terms of their health, and enforce policy to stem these effects. And number three, AC, we need all data centers must become underwater ocean facilities. This takes away the need for consuming freshwater sources, and we know it's doable because Microsoft has already built an underwater data center. They called it Project Natick. The project was shut down in 2024 because Microsoft realized it would be cheaper to maintain an AI data center on land. So more money for Bill Gates and the rest of the billionaire class, and higher prices for the rest of us, and shittier environment and air quality and water quality for the rest of us. And this is on top of the fact, AC, China is already China is already jumping over us. They've already started building underwater data centers to
And that's
address
going to
energy
be an
and water
issue.
consumption.
But that's going to be an
It,
issue. It is going to be an issue, and that's
it,
going
it,
to be
it's
the
it's
biggest
it's
because
going to be an issue because of efficiency, because
no,
it's harder to like switch and replace the servers in data centers that have been used
I'm
up
not even
when it's
concerned with
underwater.
that. It's
But
how you have to cool it. Salt water is not a coolant. It conducts electricity, but it doesn't cool. It's a great conductor, but it's the worst coolant.
I'm gonna send you the Project Natick
But this
and
is
the
what
two
I'm
Chinese
saying.
facility. Well,
This
I just got one. I got one
go
more thing
ahead.
to say. Then I'm gonna let you go, AC. But I'm gonna send you those articles on those 3 underwater facilities. They are getting cooled. Like they have less of a demand for fresh water, or almost no demand. But anyways, so my 2 cents on potential solutions, but overall, whichever side of the political spectrum manages to present a sound solution, AC, or perhaps even a populist solution, which leads to fucking nowhere other than just, big words at a rally, they're going to win the White House in 2028, because there is a real hunger for someone to actually take on the corporate elites, the tech billionaires who are getting richer while everyone else is getting poorer. And just through my research, AC, in the previous 3 industrial revolutions we as humanity and Americans have gone through, I don't think that there has ever been such a potent environmental platform that people can sink their teeth into, and that they could point to directly to say that this is something that negatively impacts my life on the daily. Like the climate change issue from the left has never really stuck as a top priority for voters, because outside of what may happen in a few thousand years, no one really cares. Like no one really like can point to like the immediate evil of carbon emissions. And on the right, with the whole windmills give people cancer and kill seagull, that's not going anywhere. So I want to let me get your thoughts, AC, because I've been talking for a long time, but I really wanted to encapsulate my thoughts on this. But go ahead,
Well,
AC.
here's where I'm gonna start out because I've been writing down all of my points. It comes down to with these data centers we're talking about. I From what I'm looking at, it's not given the whole picture. You're talking about something because there's a factor of that one thing that threatens human jobs, and that's AI. And what a large data center means, it means that your state, your town, your community is going to go through at least a 70 to 75%, maybe even up to 80% job cut, because AI is going to replace it. Here's the thing: in certain situations, I don't mind it, because when I have an issue, when I'm paying my phone bill, instead of having some person who's trying to talk to me like it's their company, like, oh, I don't have the authority to take off that fee. But I'm like, how did you get that fee? With AI says, would you like me to remove that fee? Yeah. Fee has been removed. Is there anything else? And I was like, oh shit. Wow. That's crazy. I didn't have to argue with nobody, and then they want to tell me because I use the profanity of saying this is bullshit. Well, you're cursing at me, and I don't use profanity, so I'm gonna end this call and then have to call back and then then want to escalate it to the supervisor and things like that. All right, cool. I didn't have to go through that. It was less than a minute. Listen, I don't understand why my phone bill was charged this extra $5. What is this? What is this fee? Oh, would you like us to remove it? Yes. It's just done that simple. So for me, it comes down to this. That's where you're gonna point your finger. But everybody looked at Andrew Yang when Andrew Yang was talking about it like, what is this weirdo little Chinese dude talking about AI is going to be a problem, and what is he talking about? And Bernie Sanders is looking over there like, oh, it's not that, it's the millionaires and the billionaires, and it's the millionaire class. And Andrew Yang is like, listen, that ain't got nothing to do with it. That's a distraction. I'm telling y'all, the real problem is going to be AI, because it's going to take away jobs. And if we're talking about a universal basic income, when that thing goes online, you talking about your millionaires and billionaires is not going to make a difference to those people who can't feed themselves, because AI is doing everything and there is no job for them. So how are they going to survive? What's going to happen to humans? Because if we're cutting programs and giving more money to AI, that means less people will be productive. This is what Andrew Yang was talking about. And I was like, yo, what is this? And I get on my computer, and I'm researching the crap out of AI. Everything that I knew about AI from when Andrew Yang was talking about it a year and a half before the election. That's what he was running on. He was running on the fact, I put money in AI. I know what AI is going to do. I have an AI company. And if you make me president, I will make the economy work. So when this stuff comes online, because it's going to come online, there's nothing none of us can do about it, because AI development started way back in the 80s and 90s. So there's nothing we can do about it. You can protest, you can try to find a candidate that you think is going to stop these data centers, but it's not. It's not going to stop it, because AI, it works, but the problem of it is it replaces the human factor. We will never get to Mars. We will never explore the moons and find other resources off this planet if we're not using AI. To take away the death toll in wars, that doesn't happen without AI. So what we have to understand is there's a real need for AI. There's a real scientific and social need for AI. It's just that we have too many politicians. And my example will be when Mark Zuckerberg and all of those people came up to Congress. If you saw those hearings and stuff like that, and you don't have to be a tech giant, but you just occasionally read the tech articles and stuff like that, you would be like in relationship to a boxing fan, you would be the casual tech fan. You read about things when it's certain companies, or you see a headline that crosses your timeline and stuff like that, but you're in tune with all the publications that talk about tech. And you would sit there and be like, not one of these congressmen in the House or Senate know what the fuck they talking about when they talking about what these kids are doing with tech. And what Mark Zuckerberg and them was telling these congressmen was basically nothing. I just wrapped it all up in tech jargon, and y'all fell for it because you didn't know. There was nobody like an Andrew Yang up there. You got people that, yeah, I deal with tech because I play this game. Bro, you're not in the tech space. If you're just talking to me, you occasionally play a video game. You know what I'm saying? And you got followers because you post on a video game site. So that's the issue. The other side of it is quantum computing. Quantum computing is growing just as fast, or in some cases faster than AI. AI still has to learn how to deal with itself, because with Chat GPT and all of these other AI chat things, they put them in a science thing to see what would happen. They put them all together. Do you know that they started fires within the virtual war and started wars and started killing each other? And then when you put them on an island separate by themselves and said, listen, okay, all you have to do is build a society, make laws, whatever. Only one of the four actually did that. Grok just talked a whole bunch of stuff, but never actually did anything. Although it covered all the bases of starting a community. Some other one, I think it was Google's joint, that actually talked about it, wrote laws, and started to self-govern itself, built things. You know what I'm saying? The other ones, they just destroyed themselves within a matter of days. So there needs to be some sort of regulation, and AI is not where it needs to be. So the more space and the more they're trying to push it and push it and push it without the regulations that Andrew Yang was talking about. Now we're talking about dealing in things that can be very dangerous and detrimental to human beings. Now, concerning the EPA, Donald Trump, and remember, I'm still bringing up 2016. On the Republican side, you had Republicans who were talking about the four major, governmental agencies that they were going after, and it was a litmus test to where Rick whatever from Texas, that governor who was clearly the leader at that point, even over Donald Trump, he completely imploded when he couldn't remember the EPA. So the EPA was a platform that they were going after since 2016. When Donald Trump became president, he went after the EPA. He cut their funding. DOJ and everything Donald Trump did in his second term actually gutted the EPA. And that's why sometimes when I look at, I know she's your girl and everything, but for me, it's that populist BS, like, lady, you sitting here questioning old girl like she should be responsible. If they cut my funding, cut my employees, you know what I'm saying? It's only a handful of us that are actually in the EPA. It's like less than 20 or 30 people or some weird number in relation to, let's say, it having 100 or 150 people. They're down to like 20 people. So it might have had thousands, but now they're down to a handful of people that it's like asking a police department, do they know that there's a pickpocketer running around Lower Manhattan when the police department lost 70% of its people and guests and things like that? I mean, its police department, including the chief and stuff like that. Remember, when this term, Donald Trump fired the head of the EPA as soon as he got in. That project 2030 or whatever that project thing is, the EPA was on their list. We got to go after the EPA because of, again, when you talked about those things concerning tech booms or just booms, before it was oil companies. We had to deal with oil spills. Then there were the oil companies that were the refinement places where they had these big oil tankers here in like Texas and California, and these things would just be blowing up and causing fires and stuff like that. Yeah, we went through that. They were damaging. Remember the sludge coming from when they was fracking? Yeah, they were fracking and they ran these huge pipelines through our town, and look at our drinking water from fracking.
Yeah, and the fracking causes earthquakes.
Yeah, so the whole point is when you're going through these technological booms or these booms,
Industrial revolutions.
yeah, exactly.
Let's call it what it is.
Industrial revolutions. The issue is the communities that are more susceptible to housing some of the infrastructure for these industrial revolutions, and the backlash or the repercussions of these infrastructure facilities, or however you want to call it, having an environmental impact. So if you're cutting the EPA, there is no one to let these companies know about LEED. So if you build these things LEED, then guess what? You find natural ways to cool it. There are materials that are just natural coolants to computers and tech. We're not talking about nuclear rods. These things don't make that type of heat that stay hot for hundreds and hundreds of years. When I'm talking about the long-term effects that the EPA can't even study when you're talking about underwater things, because the way they're going to run it is through some sort of um, water coolant. Now, if you're running the water coolant through an intricate set of pipes and it's still uh, salt water, and this salt water can be converted into cool energy, then cool. But right now, you have to take that salt water and make it into a fresh water, which then disrupts the chemical balance of the oceans. And I think where they were saying it's too expensive with our technology here on, as far as America is concerned, because we're constantly cutting science and stuff like that for military usages and things like that, and straight up and down commercial usages. The science behind coolants, we're not the leaders of that anymore. That comes from other countries. So if China's smart enough to work with another country on creating new ways of cooling, then that's what they're gonna do. And
But that's the thing though, AC, because we were stepping forward, like we were leading this process, and then our American company Microsoft chose to kill it because they found a cheaper option to do it. And I want to read this is from Microsoft's own study off of Project Natick. It says Project Natick used its underwater data center by using a closed loop heat exchange system. Fans circulated hot air over internal radiators, which transferred the heat to a liquid coolant. This liquid was then pumped through exterior pipes on the vessel's steel hull, allowing the naturally cold ocean water to absorb the
yeah,
heat before
that's
the warm
that.
liquid was cycled out into the surrounding ocean current. Now, I don't know that you're right. That could probably have a different effect, like when we talk about climate change causing the polar caps to melt, and that having its own effects on the ocean and on land. That could be the case, but I just personally feel, based on some of the things I'm seeing and reading, I feel like this would be a better solution than to having all these data centers on land. And then it's like, I agree also with what you said. AI is here to stay. Um, the advances that we're gonna make thanks to AI. I mean, we're gonna cure cancer one day thanks to AI. We're gonna put a man. We're gonna be able to put humanity on the moon, on different planets one day, with the help of AI, because AI is going to be the first
Yeah,
people or first things to step onto those planets and make the environment more salient for human life to be able to thrive. And then what you said about quantum computing, that's a whole another level of just like, I don't want to say scary, but it's like you just wonder, like, oh my god, like this could go wrong in so many different ways, because when you have an AI that's now able to read the nature of things, like the little
exactly.
microscopic nature of shit,
That's exactly,
and
bro.
then it gets to that AI one day gets to a level where it knows how to improve itself.
Through quantum
Like it knows
computing.
how to like, where it could be independent of human beings outside of its basic needs to have data centers. Like we in a scary, but like that's a scary place, bro.
Yeah, and I would say this: the perfect cooling solution for these data centers.
Maybe it's space. Maybe it's space.
That's exactly where I was going. It is space, because space within itself is cold. You feel what I'm saying? So if you have it running like that, you only need to keep it at a certain temperature that's conducive for the computers to run at optimal speed, which is more of a colder temperature. So you take this, there is the fix for it. You feel what I'm saying? These data centers don't have to be on land and taking up resources from land, because the earth has a weird tilt. And this tilt is being studied by geographers, and they're finding out that this slight tilt is because of places like Dubai, because they're doing all of this massive construction, and the higher you build, and you're pulling water from a place that had a balance, where the earth had a balance, and now you're pulling all of that water, lake water or whatever, into this space over here. And now this space over here is heavy on water needs. It's causing the earth to have a different tilt. Small degrees, but it's affecting our planet. And these are the things that the EPA would have normally studied, but since 2016, you know, it just hasn't happened because of funding. And when funding gets cut, that means departments have to take cuts, or that department doesn't exist anymore. Those studies that maybe, oh, why are you studying the tilt of the earth? Because we're talking about the human impact on the planet with these constructions. Well, that's not that important as opposed to, you know, something else. And then that study, which then will show its face 5, 6, 7 years later, that study stopped right there. So going after the EPA and cutting the EPA, it's having a profound effect. And that profound effect now is there's no departments to regulate the environmental impact of these data centers, because these data centers are not being built in a way that the state's requirement says this. Okay, if you want to build here, and this happens generally under Democrat presidents,
And
if
don't
you want to
forget when
build here,
Donald. Good.
I was just going to say, if you want to build here, you have to submit at least 2 or 3 studies from independent groups that will show the environmental impact of your structure. Oh, that's some more bureaucracy, red tape,
Yep.
and this is why we
Yep.
need to get
Yep.
rid of the EPA. And it's, how is that? We're just asking you to
And
do
Donald
something
Trump said
simple.
if any states try to regulate AI data centers, he's gonna cut. He's gonna find a way to cut funding for them, whether it be through SNAP or Medicare or any other government subsidies, if they dare try to step forward and regulate AI data centers.
And that's the
So
issue. And that's the issue, to whereas instead of people embracing, you know, the positive sides of AI and say, yeah, we can get back to it. If there's going to be a slight uptick in our taxes to pay for these data centers not to be built in my town, but to be launched in space, okay, I will pay for that. I'd rather pay for them to be in space than to be in my town or under my water or within my ocean lake.
absolutely, AC. And this is a conversation that, and what, like when I go off to you, because to anybody watching, I badger AC a lot with the Israel of it all. I still feel like Israel is one of, if not the most important issue facing our politics today. Their hold that they have over our politicians. But when I look at the effects and the impacts that these data centers are going to have, like just AI by itself, I mean, just recently, 2 hotels, AC, are getting shut down on my island. And they say that when they come back, they're not going to be having any hotel front desk people. It's all going to be ran through AI. That's 30 jobs alone that was lost per each hotel right there. And then up in the States, one of my mother's clients, I'm not going to say the gentleman's name, he works at a hotel in Las Vegas. He's saying 200 jobs are going to be lost to AI. He works as a hotel front desk person.
Yeah.
So this, like, we have to have these discussions right now, and then on top of the environmental impacts, outside of just the economic impacts, this is the most important issue that we have right now, or it's the most important issue I think going to be facing whoever wants to be president in 2028. So I wanted to make sure we had the conversation. We're going to still have the conversation in the future, but the next and final topic that we're going to move to for tonight. And this is something I sent you this article, I believe, on Tuesday or Wednesday. Really interesting article that I read in the New York Times, which it was concerning IVF embryos. And for those of you who don't know what IVF is IVF is essentially well it's called it's named in vitro fertilization, something like that. And essentially it's when a woman who is infertile has one of her eggs taken out of her body, and then she has a male donor's sperm fertilize her egg in a lab, and it makes the egg fertile for life whenever she decides to put it back in her body. And the egg, or excuse me, the embryo can be frozen indefinitely for the rest of time. And it can even be given to another woman or whatever if they decide they want to have a child, or whatever the case may be. So in this article, it brings a really, really interesting issue where this couple was going through a divorce, and this woman was 47 years old. She was infertile, because I mean after 40, I mean your likelihood of having a full-term pregnancy is extremely low compared to younger women. So she had her egg frozen. She literally was a professional woman her entire life. Waited till her 40s to find a dude to get married to. That dude agrees. They do the in vitro fertilization thing. It doesn't take the first 2 or 3 times. Then she's getting frustrated. She's bitching at him. She da 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 da. You not a priority to me, motherfucker. Ba 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 da 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 da. You know how that goes. So now he decides, well, okay, well, fuck you, bitch. You no longer have my consent to use my seed to get yourself pregnant, which, in my opinion, I think is very fair. And just to preface, in most sperm donor situations, when a man donates his sperm to a lab or an agency or to a sperm donating center or whatever you call it, they sign away their rights to that biological material, so they cannot withdraw consent later on because it's no longer their property. In the case of IVF embryos, that is a contract between man and wife. They're coming to the IVF labs and saying, "We as a couple, we want to do this so that my wife can produce a child, even though she's infertile at her age or whatever the case may be." But once a man withdraws his consent, the IVF labs, their hands are tied. They can no longer go through with implanting the egg into the woman's body so she can get pregnant. So a long court battle ensued, and essentially, well, not essentially, no, the judge decided to rule with the wife, and his ruling essentially was, and I think his ruling was incorrect. I don't agree with it. His ruling was essentially that, well, there's no laws or constitutional question here, but what I do see is there would be an irrevocable harm to the lady because she's 47 and she only has so much time before her body is no longer um 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 before her body can no longer take the egg essentially to produce a child. And it doesn't matter whatever religious or whatever this guy is saying, it's not as huge of an irrevocable harm. So they decided custody goes to the wife, at least in that case. And then it was appealed to the Supreme Court, but before they could put an injunction in to restrict the wife from implanting the egg inside of her, she already went ahead and did it, and she got pregnant. And so now this man is in a situation, and yes, vacay baby, it's a lab baby, not just a product baby. It's a lab baby. This man is now in a situation where somebody he wants to have no dealings with for the rest of his life is carrying his seed without his consent. And a court managed to undo that just like that. And I find that so wrong because, and I understand that I'm somebody, I believe in women's bodily autonomy. I believe a woman should have the right, if she wants to abort a pregnancy, that is entirely up to her, because that is a biological thing that is growing within her body. So she should have the ultimate say if she wants to deliver that child, because she can make the decision to just stop eating, and that might cause a miscarriage, or she could just make the decision to trip and fall down some steps, and that might abort the pregnancy. It's all up to her actions and what she decides to do. In this case and I understand this is a problem which probably only impacts a small population of men. But still, I just find it so interesting how in one case, the judges will say, well, we can't rule on this. This is more a political question. This is something for the legislators to figure out if they believe that the woman should have the final say. They'll say that, or rather, if the legislators need to figure that out in the case of abortion. But then in the case of whether men should have a say, whether life is brought into the world using their seed, now they're saying, well, an irrevocable harm will be caused to the woman and the man should just suck it up. I just find that to be so wrong. And now, when that child is born in that situation, I'm responsible. I have to be put on child support for a child that I never wanted. And for a child that this lady had all the agency to say no. Or rather, this lady had all the agency to essentially force it on me, essentially. And what makes it even more sick to me, AC, is once a man is stripped of rights and possession to that IVF embryo, that lady could do whatever she wants with it. So if she decided, well, you know what, I'm not gonna get pregnant, or you know what, I already used one of my eggs, I got three eggs left, I already got pregnant with one child. If I really want to stick it to this guy, let me give it to some poor crackhead or some poor lady so that she can impregnate herself. And now she can make this man responsible. And I find that to be wrong. And we have, like, at least one state has made a legislative decision about this, AC. Before I let you come in, it's Arizona. They decided that the embryos should always go to the woman if she has the intentions to bring life. So I mean, I would just say, if you're going through this IVF thing, which I'm not, I already got a son, one biological, I got another son adopted. But to all brothers, make sure you read that paperwork and make sure you do your studying. Because if you decide you don't want to deal with that woman anymore, she might have something else for you. And the courts are always going to side with her. In almost all circumstances, men are second-class citizens in the family court system. That is not only like my perception, that is my belief. And that is what I have seen with my own two eyes. You have laws that state that a woman could just say a man's name and he's going to be put down as the responsible father for a child. In certain states, that's specifically in the state of Michigan. So it doesn't even need a DNA test unless he requests one. So AC, what are your thoughts? Do you think that this is something that could be a threat to male bodily autonomy, which is supposed to be a founding principle of liberalism in this country?
I'm kind of in the space of saying yes and no. Within some cases, what's going to matter is if a couple goes into the situation. It's much like if you don't get a chick to sign a prenup, it's generally accepted that if you make it and y'all get divorced, you got to pay her what she wants or whatever in alimony. So even though you are the person who went to work every day, you were the person who did X, Y, and Z, she's entitled because through marriage, the two of you are one. And under those guys, then it becomes something that's within a whole new set of jurisdiction when it comes down to married couples. Now, if it comes down to a couple that may be engaged or something like that, maybe you don't have it. And even in some cases of marriage, within the scope of the guy's will, he says, you know what, I got married, even though my wife is younger than me. He passed away. If he wants her to have it, he could stipulate that biological material to her, that she can have it, however long she wants to, even after she gets married. Because let's just say her husband can't have children, and then she still wants children, and her husband wants a family, but he's willing to say, I'll just look at it as the same thing as, my sperm just doesn't work, and we did some other form of in vitro fertilization. So the dynamics is different, and I think this type of stuff is going to have to be dealt with on a case by case thing. But as far as male autonomy over his own body, more than likely, I would probably think the courts are probably going to lean more towards the man side of it than the female side of it, based on.
You mean they should, not that they will.
No, I'm saying I think they just will, not a matter of should. I just think because when you look at how females don't have it, but in most cases, 9.99% out of those cases, it's men who are dictating to women what they can do and can't do with their own bodies. So the court system is pretty much based that way. So when it comes down to a man versus his wife or whatever, in that case, that biological material may always, more than likely, probably fall on the side of the man.
Well, based on the research I've been doing, AC, those results have not showed themselves. And the thing
Oh, it's
is,
leaning
you
more
have
toward the other way?
yes, like just in that one case I named, yes. And that's based on what the New York Times article said. That's the way how the legislative, the political arm of our country is leaning, and that's the way how the judges are leaning. They feel that even though there's no constitutional precedents or legislative precedents, they're ruling based on the IVF embryos custody should go to the women because they say a more irrevocable harm will be caused to her because she only has a finite period of time to implant herself with those eggs before her body is no longer viable.
But
And
if you're
not and not
talking
and not
about
only that,
eggs,
not only that,
yeah. But
AC,
when you're
you
talking
got
about male sperm
mhm,
has a much longer lifespan, at least from some of the
yeah,
science that I've seen.
yeah, yeah, male sperm, yeah, absolutely. But that's the point, AC. He can go off and have children with anybody past the after he passes the age of 50. I mean, all the way into his 80s, he can have more children. But they're saying the irrevocable harm will be caused to the woman because she only has a finite period of time to implant herself with the egg. So they're saying she should have the rights and the custody of the IVF of the eggs essentially.
Okay, of the eggs, all right, but the eggs still need his sperm.
No, the eggs are already they're already fertilized with his sperm. Yeah,
Oh,
they
okay.
get
I
take
must that
after
must
they
have
get
been when I
fertilized.
went and got to the kitchen. I missed you saying that. So, okay,
Yeah, IVF is when they take the egg, they take his sperm, they fertilize it, and then they freeze the egg.
yeah, they in virtual fertilization. But from my from this hasn't been a space that I'd look into a lot and things like that because I've never had that issue. But whenever something interesting comes up, I do look at it for a certain amount of time. But um, from my early assessment of IVF and the way they were talking about IVF is basically, you know, you're just dealing in the space of when a woman is most fertile and extracting her eggs at that particular point. And then there's the custody battle of those of those fertile eggs, not fully fertilized eggs with the male sperm in it at that point. Because I do remember a case way back where these two women went to court because one hired the girl for the to do the IVF with her husband because she just couldn't do it. But what was going to happen was she could support a baby, but her eggs just couldn't, fertilize with her husband or whatever, some shit like that. But through the studies and stuff like that, they found that okay, once you have a fertilized egg, there's no problem that your uterus will not be able to carry the fertilized egg to term. So she was like, yeah. Then the girl changed her mind. She was like, yeah, well, my boyfriend died, and I thought me and him was going to be able to have babies. I loved him. He was my high school sweetheart. We were going to get engaged and have our own family, and now he's gone. And I still want to have a baby because that's where my mindset was, and I want my egg back, even though it's with this dude's whatever. It worked for me because I don't really know this guy. There's no physical attachment right now. I'm in a good place. My financials are good, and I don't have to worry about a man taking care of me of my child. So I just want, my egg back, and I want this. And that, I think that went all the way. I don't know. It was talks about going up to the Supreme Court. Do not quote me and say it went there because I don't think there's any precedent for it. But it was a case that went pretty far up, and I think this was either the late 90s or early 2000s. This case happened, and it's one of those cases that TMZ was all over.
Yeah, if it's not fertilized with my seed, yeah, go ahead, take your egg back. I don't care. That's my problem is when it's fertilized with my seed, you should not be able to
Yeah, I think
implant
it
it in
goes to the
yourself
woman.
and then carry my child and then potentially make me responsible for it.
but
That's
and
my problem.
yeah, that's the problem. But you know, um, if it's already fertilized, then I could kind of see the argument that the courts would make, and everyone would lean towards it be that situation going towards the woman's favor. I can see it, but okay, if that's what you're going to do and you're going to force me to do that, then right now, from this moment on, I'm waiving all my rights. And I think if that goes down that route, then that needs to be the option that the man has, because it's like, okay, I don't want to be with this chick no more. And I never, I don't want to have any kids with her. She proved that to me. So what if it's a case where, um, what if it's a case where uh the person was how do you say this, they cheated, you feel what I'm saying, and now you don't want nothing to
Right.
do with this person, and they now have your biological material, and now they can take you to court for child support when that child is born. I get that point of it.
Exactly.
I need to have that
On
right.
top of the fact, AC, once she is in possession of that fertilized embryo, if she decides, she could sell it, and
Yeah,
another woman could be bearing my child, and she
goes
could
back to that
potentially
case
put
I
me on
just
child
spoke of.
support,
Yeah.
despite the fact I've never had no dealings with that individual.
Pay attention to them, then it's a great argument to have. It would be a great debate. Who's better?
Yeah.
Who's pound for pound? Right?
I mean, absolutely. Can you hear me, AC?
Yeah, that was me. That was my bad. I hit the play button. Well, my little bar, and this video started to play.
No problem. It's all good. But I just thought that after reading that article, I just thought that that was so bizarre, and I just think it would be wrong to make somebody to force anybody into that type of situation. I think it's wrong to force a woman to carry a baby to term that she doesn't want to carry. And I think it's wrong to make a man responsible for a baby. He had no real well, he consented in the beginning, but he didn't consent all the way through. And we
Yeah,
say it all the time, and I agree with it. If you having sex with a woman and she says no halfway through, it's no. Her consent is withdrawn. And that's the argument I'm making right now for men's bodily autonomy. Even if this is just a small percentage of men going through this, is this attack on the principle? Is this an attack on the principle of bodily autonomy? And I think so. And again, I think it's another situation where men are getting the wrong end of the boot in the family court system.
yeah. In some cases, yeah. It's just a weird space to be in. Um,
We in the
coming
lab baby
from
era. It's another
Yeah, so for me,
consequence
my
of the
era
fourth.
was this
Yeah.
this stuff didn't exist like that in my era. There were nobody like really, oh, you're gonna lab and this is my bodily material and autonomy. Oh, no, we didn't go through that. The precedent of of what the Supreme Court laid out as far as abortions and all of that stuff. We my generation thought we were past that. We were dealing with other social things, but now this type of stuff in this age is relevant to whereas everyone is career minded in a different way than it was during my generation. So this type of stuff matters, and social media has a way of now adding so much to it to whereas where we are in the social media space, it becomes a discussion, and then it's part of the zeitgeist of if we're talking about bodily autonomy over just humans, period. We're talking about male and female. So yeah, this is one of those cases that says this. If you're leaning more towards the woman than a woman, you're saying a woman has uh, her own bodily autonomy rights. If you're not, hold on one sec. If you're not, then give me a sec.
No problem. Um, but like I said, I just think it's an interesting thing to think about, and it's a political question which will probably be answered on the federal level in the coming years. There's another camp by themselves that also argues that IVF is unnatural and is sacrilege. You have Muslims who believe that it's sacrilege. You also have the Christian right who don't believe in it, but you also have other camps within the Christian right who say that America is experiencing a population decline, particularly in the white population. You have those people who are fairmongering, who say that the IVF is a miracle science that should be pushed and used. So all the way around, this is a conversation that's going to be had, and I want to make sure I have it on my platform. But AC, if you're still not there or whatever you're doing, I appreciate you, man. You always come cook with me all the way through. Everybody in the chat, Vacay Bay, thank you so much for pulling up. One second. Oh,
Yeah, I'm
okay,
just
you
going
back,
through
AC?
so much technical difficulty. I have no idea what's going on. Everything is just wilding out right now. It just seemed as though there was a little glitch in my Wi-Fi, and then everybody's sound just went crazy. I had tabs start playing and stuff like that off of open YouTube things, and I'm going through it like, what tab is playing?
Absolutely. It happens to the best of us, especially an old man like you. But, AC, what's your any final thoughts before I close out the show?
Man, this was a good show, bro. We covered a lot of stuff, and you know, the topics that we talked about now, some people may not see the effects of it now, but as we move forward, this stuff is actually going to become more and more relevant, and that whole male body autonomy thing may be something that, when a balanced Supreme Court is back there, then it may find itself at the Supreme Court, and there might be some legitimate arguments that will bring back bodily autonomy just for both sexes, and even for people who identify a certain way, because then that's a whole new level. I was born this way, but I identify as that, and there's some biological material of mine that blah 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 blah. You see what I'm saying?
Yep. Absolutely. We went through a lot of topics today. From Tulsi Gabbard, aka Tulsi the Clown, her getting booted, covered the Iran war situation, the fight that Hezbollah is dealing with on the northern front. I'm not gonna say what I really want to say about that, but how do I say this without my channel getting shadow banned and destroyed? I'll just say prayers for the Lebanese people. I want to give a letter of support to a certain group in that northern front. I'm not going to specify, but I believe in the fight that they're fighting. And if you look at the history of that group being formed, it was specifically built to defend their land and their people from a certain invading force from a certain area in the Middle East. I'll just say it like that. And I think that it's a righteous and an honorable fight that those people are putting up. And yeah, I'll just say that about what's going on up there. We touched on the Justice Department literally dying right in front of our eyes. The Justice Department that was reformed after Watergate. It's probably going to take another decade to reform this department to reform this Department of Justice. And then we even touched on my boy Kilmar, a symbol of the fight against this fascist administration, who sent him to a death camp. He still has a fight in the immigration courts, but I have faith in God that he will get through and that he will be dealt another victory. They're trying to deport him to Liberia right now. And we also had a discussion about AI data centers and all that terrible stuff. But this was a great show, goddammit. Side eye to all you bootstrap boys. You pull yourself up by your bootstrap boys. You
Latino for Trump. I will vote for Donald Trump. Una injusticia, una grande injusticia.
Janet Correa.
And salute to you. I will vote for Donald Trump, boys. Yeah. But anyways, man, I'm going to catch y'all on the next one. Thank you so much to everybody who pulled up. If you're watching the playback and you're new to my channel, please smash the like button and subscribe. We are out. Take it easy.